I have questions about tomorrow's launch of the SpaceShipTwo for Virgin Galactic, which will take the first mission of paying tourists to space. I wish them very well, but I do have concerns. Who am I? I am a subject matter expert in space systems, especially space avionics for rockets. And I was also president of the Altitude Research Corporation, which developed this motor, which is the daddy of the SpaceShipOne motor, the granddaddy of the SpaceShipTwo motor. And this thing's actually been fired for about 3 or 4 seconds. I'll show you the video for that at the end of this video, and a couple of other things, some things that we did. I have the connections to that program, which ultimately became SpaceShipTwo, and the development of this motor, and the fact that we in the HARC actually proposed to we were one of 4 companies that bid to pour the engine for SpaceShipOne, HMX, Space Dev, HARC, and let's see, it was Space Dev, let's see, EAC, yeah. And we were the 4. Burt Rutan called me and offered me one of the first 2 contracts in this, but we did not agree on terms. Enough said on that. So I'll show you some credentials here. But first, I'm going to say one thing that worries me a lot about this is it is also, like the Titan submersible, a composite system, which was originally developed by Scale Composites. And it's a case that I'm concerned about the wings and a lot of other things about it, because it's already come out in a report, and I'll show you that in just in a little bit, that the wings were reported to be cracked like eggshells. And yet I've not heard anything about what the fix might be. If you go to the Virgin Galactic website, it's just a puff, pure marketing employee. Before I would spend the vast amount of money to fly on that, I would have a lot of questions asked. Now, my good friend Tim Pickens, who was also far more involved in that program than myself directly, he feels like he would feel safe enough to fly on it. So that's a good testimony for Virgin Galactic. And I wish them the very best, because this has been over 20 years in the making. It's been 19 years just with that program on SpaceShipTwo alone. Well, it's been 19 years since the X Prize was won by Burt Rutan and his team at Scale Composites, which some of the guys that used to work for me at HARC were directly involved in. Like I said, later, I actually bid with some of them to do the motor pouring for it. Space Dev actually won over the long term. They've been bought out by Sierra Nevada since. So I think Scale took it back in-house, and of course, Scale has been bought out by Northrop Grumman. Now, this flight coming up has been a long time in coming. But in talking space safety, Burt Rutan used to run around the country cutting down NASA for not being safe, claiming he would be greatly safe, and he quit that when he had the cold flow test at Mojave Desert, actually to Mojave Airport. Why would he be doing that at an airport? That terminated the lives of 3 individuals, including one that used to work for me and a friend, Glenn May. Now, I think I'll show you a little video that's got him in it on the deck of a boat launching the balloon launch return vehicle, which we developed from the Altitude Research Corporation and launched out of the Gulf of Mexico. I may also show you a little bit of our Cat's Prize rocket video. So you got some stuff to see in this. I'll try not to make it too long. But guys, the composites, when they crack, they don't show like metal. You get the various fibers. In fact, this is composite wound. This motor has a composite wound casing. You see that? It's a high-tech composite wound motor, but it's got a metal liner in it. But there are limitations to that stuff, because when it cracks, it's hard to tell. These little fibers break. They can also delaminate. They can have air bubbles if it's not formed correctly. Now, I think they don't have air bubbles and the stuff Scale Composite did. The hull of the SpaceShipTwo itself has 2 hulls, and that's why Burt was so happy about its safety. He thought, well, I got 2 hulls, and it's separated by honeycomb mesh between them, and that should be pretty good. But you've also got a composite tank with 750 psi nitrous oxide, which is the oxidizer to run the system. Nitrous oxide is safer than is LOX by a long shot, but it still has its risk, and that's what they discovered at the cold flow test that terminated the lives of 3 individuals and critically injured 3 others in July of 2007 at the Mojave Airport. And then they had another incident. They actually had the crash of the VSS Enterprise, which occurred on 31 October 2014. So this is not to be taken lightly, my friends. That was a catastrophic breakup on ascent, and it terminated the life of co-pilot Michael Alsbury. And it's thought that he actually pulled the mechanism that opened the shuttlecock system that was supposed to feather the thing for re-entry to give it a more drag. You don't need drag on ascent with a rocket motor. Hope that was probably some accidental move. Who knows? Maybe a mechanism actually broke and he didn't do that. The pilot actually survived, but he was greatly injured, and that's Peter Seibold. He was critically injured, but he survived the breakup of a space plane on ascent powered by a rocket motor. Whew. So, yeah, this is not to be taken trivially. Now, if you want to get on one of these things, by all means, but you need to understand the risk. It's not like getting in your car and running down the street. There is, if you make the flight, the good thing about the SpaceShipTwo, it's got a lot of cabin space. You get to float around for a little bit. You can look out the windows and see the curvature of the Earth, flat earthers, and it will be an enjoyable flight if it returns home successfully. And it will be quite an adventure riding up on a rocket and going through that maneuver. But it is with risk, especially given what I've heard about the wings. And that was something that I raised with George Whitesides early on. I told him that the wings of this thing, because they're long and span, even the carrier aircraft, they carry a lot of load. They do it repeatedly, and so they're at risk. Sure, you can do non-destructive testing that you can monitor these things to look for a lot of those cracks and fibers and stuff like that, but it's not a guarantee you're going to find everything, especially with thick hull vehicles. Now, of course, the hull itself is pressurized, but don't have to withstand as much pressure as the Titan did, because the Titan went down deep in the ocean where the pressure difference is far greater. So you would not have an implosion, you might have an explosion, or more likely, usually carbon fiber, when a pressure vessel, when it fails, will seep instead of explode or implode. But it depends on the pressure differential. And we saw, when you got the pressure differential, like where Titan went into the Titanic, that was catastrophic. And there's a lot of things that can go wrong. That's a 750 psi oxidizer tank could have a risk. The bulkhead, that single bulkhead between the rocket motor and oxidizer tank, could fail. I've seen that happen on one of these motors. But they do have a pressure system to hold it, kind of like on a pressure cooker, the way that these things are connected up. So that could take a lot of load. I hope everything is good with that. It's just, there needs to be a lot of questions asked. So I'm going to show you a couple of things here real fast, just to kind of, before I show the other articles, just to kind of drill in my bona fides on this, because I also competed for the X Prize with a different entry a little bit later down the road. We entered a little too late with Hart because Burt Rutan was already really close, and we just couldn't get the investment money together fast enough to beat him. But I think we had a superior system to Burt Rutan in many ways, because we had two LOX kerosene 12,000-pound thrust motors for the rocket we were going to fly, called the Liberator, and they were liquid ejection thrust vector control LITVC engines. You didn't have to move the engine. It was a little bit of water was sprayed around the nozzle to divert the flame, and that had already been tested. So, guys, I'm going to show you some stuff here real quick. We're going to do a screen share, ding ding, and we're going to come over here. And this is the program that Tim Pickens and I were pursuing here, the Liberator. This is in the Space Review. This article comes from 2003. The year before the X Prize was won. Like I said, we just entered a little too late. High Altitude Research Corporation, ARC, and with Ryan Propulsion, Greg Allison, that's me, and Tim Pickens. So this just gives you a little bit of idea of this venture, but I'll show you where they actually had a preview day. This is us on our day, our press day, with the X Prize team near Huntsville, Alabama, actually just east of Gurley. This was the Liberator capsule. We had a escape tower. This is one of the oxidizer tanks with a rocket motor on it, and another rocket motor is on the test stand. Yeah, we had rocket motors. That is me, I think, right there. I was dressed all in black that day. I was trying to be spacey. So, Liberator details. This is on the Space Review. Jeff Faust put this article out again in 2003, a little bit later, November 24th. So you can find this. Just look for enter the, well, that's not, this is a closer look at the Liberator. The other articles, enter the Liberator. You can find these. I'll try to put links to them. And there's some pictures in here of this event. That is me. That is Tim Pickens. And Tim Pickens worked for Burt Rutan, designing the systems that went into Spaceship One. He later consulted and did a lot of work on Spaceship Two. That's another rocket engine right there. It's kind of covered up. And that's a rocket motor right here. Two actual rocket motors. Those are liquid engines. Now, we pioneered hybrid rocket motors, like is used on the Spaceship Two high altitude launched hybrid rocket motors. We launched from balloons, a little higher than actually where the white knight goes to. So there's a gallery of images here, and we can click through here, show you some of this stuff. Yeah, we were unveiling it. We had it covered up. How does these pictures? Yeah, we got to hit the next button on it. And yeah, this is not too sleek here. You can see we were uncovering it. Yeah, we had quite a team working on this. Now, we actually had engineers on our team, something that still was a little bit shy on. I'll talk to that in a little bit. That's another thing that concerns me. Here I am with Greg Marionek. Greg Marionek was the X-Prize coordinator that came for our team here. That's Tim Pickens. This was at his dad's place. This is where we did a lot of this work out in the middle of the wilderness. This is our team. I'm doing a passing review of all our team members that we had involved in this project, who had supported us for many years in HARC. This is the late, great Steve Mustakas, who just passed away a few months ago, unfortunately, showing our flight simulator that we had for this. This is a small suitcase hybrid rocket motor that we fired for demonstration, and this is in plexiglass. This is Conrad Dannenberg. Yes, the late, great Conrad Dannenberg, who designed the injectors for the V2 rocket. And he actually was program manager on the Saturn V rocket. So a good friend of mine. I used to cut his Christmas turkey sometimes. So yeah, I knew these guys. And let's see, there's more pictures, I think. Okay, maybe not. So let's go over to something else here. So, well, I'm not the only one raising questions, but these guys are just talking about the optics of it. Now, why are you selling this just a week after the Titan submersible tragedy? So they're talking about the optics of it. I'm talking about the engineering of it. Also, George Whitesides had been the president and CEO of Virgin Galactic for some time. He is not currently. He moved on, but I actually hired him to be the executive director of the National Space Society prior to that. This is one of my other connections because I was chairman of the executive committee, which is the CEO of the National Space Society. And so this is just an article about that, just to show you more of these connections here. So I've had many different connections. So when I say I talked to George Whitesides, yeah, take it to the bank. And here we are, wings cracked like eggshells. And this was just back in January of this year. So how have they made repairs to that between then and now? I don't know, guys. That concerns me right there. That really concerns me, knowing what we know about composites and their vulnerability. I hope they've got this fixed, but if you go on the Virgin Galactic website, it's all fluff. It's all, just beautiful roses and everything. But see, it's not when you get a crash. This is like the crash I was telling you about, my friends. You can find it here on Wikipedia. There's a whole article on Wikipedia. And see, Virgin Galactic CEO, who? George Whitesides. Good man, but he was not an engineer. He was a good marketer, business guy, and a good guy. I consider him a friend. So I got friends involved in this enterprise, and I wish them the best because it's a long time in coming. I'm going to show you real quick. This is our balloon launch return vehicle. This is a rocket powered remote controlled airplane we developed with the High Altitude Research Corporation. We're on the deck of a boat called the C. Michael Calais out in the Gulf of Mexico. And this has got a balloon above it. This is a cold gas reaction control system to point this thing in the vector we wanted it to for firing. Tim Pickens was involved in this, and also the cold gas reaction control system of Spaceship One and Spaceship Two. And somewhere down here on this deck is Glenn May. And also, there's a couple of people that's passed away since. So this is this is the chief engineer of Mike Smith of the balloon company, Raven, which is now Aerostar. And so I'll play you a little bit of this video. This is from Barry Pickens, Tim's brother's website. I'm in here, so I think that's me right here. So let's see. I think I'm in this kind of a grainy photo. You gotta remember this is shot with old film and translated later. Yeah, I think that's me right there. And let's see. Glenn May is one of these guys. I think that may be Glenn May. Glenn May's out here. Yeah, that's Glenn May right there, I believe. He later passed away. This was 25 years ago in 1998. This was part of a phase one small business innovative research grant, which was only like for $70,000. It was supposed to be a paper study. This is the way I did my paper studies, my friend, with hardware and flights. No, we hadn't fired the cold gas reaction control system yet. We were saving the gas till we would be ready to fire it, so we get oriented. We didn't want to burn the gas too soon. Somewhere, let's skip ahead. I think, yeah, here's the firing of my rocket motor beside me. That trailer's in my backyard right now. I've got video on my channel. On this channel, me sitting in that trailer talking about the sunspots or something. So there's many other videos of other rocket motors we've tested. This is the actual LITVC engine that we had for the Liberator. That's an early test firing of it. Now that was actually developed originally by Space America. Here's another firing. Let's see, I think let's skip forward over here. This is the kind of things I was involved in on the side. Now we acquired the use of this motor. It was actually developed by another company that Tim did some work for. So, and I'll show you our Heart Catch Prize rocket. Just to show you guys, I'm no joke here. I've been involved in this stuff. This is the things I used to do. This is off the boat, the C. Michael. No. This is the Mr. Offshore, 200 miles out in the Gulf of Mexico. And these exhausts on the ship were turned around so that the hot fuel would not impact our balloon. And Glenn May is out here on this deck too. Let's see if I can see him. This might be a little better video for that. That's Glenn May right there. He passed away at the airport. It's Bill Brown talking. That's fast sending my Heart Catch Prize rocket, which this is a motor for right here. Sorry for the grainy old video. This is 23 years ago on this one. All right, there you go, my friends. Just to show you, I'm the real deal. I've been involved in this stuff, quite a bit involved for some time. So when I got concerns about safety on a system, you need to pay attention. And if you're going to fly on the Virgin Galactic system, ask a lot of questions and understand the risk you're taking. I won't say don't go. Like I said, my friend Tim Pickens, who was also intimately involved, said he would follow. And that's a testament of confidence to me. And he has not been known in the past for being a great big risk taker, though he does some more. I mean, he's built a couple of jet packs and things. So, and rocket powered bicycles. Yeah, we have some fun in the Huntsville, Alabama community here. But guys, this is serious. We got paying passengers on board. I hope nobody's taking any kids on board, like a teenager went down in the Titan. So everybody needs to be adult and capable of making an informed decision about the risks they're taking. A long time ago, back when we was doing this stuff, I coined Allison's laws of rockets, and they're as follows. Law 1, rockets go boom. Law 2, rockets will always go boom. Rockets have always gone boom. Law 3 is rockets will always go boom. Rockets go boom. Rockets have always gone boom. Rockets will always go boom. Our job is to make them go boom a whole lot less often. So that's the challenge of rockets. I mean, you're riding up in a controlled explosion, and you come back like a meteorite if you get enough velocity. Uh, so that's the thing to bear in mind about it. There's a lot of critical events that occur in a rocket flight. So these things have to be have a lot of attention. You have to have design margin in your structures and a lot of your systems, and in your controls, you need redundancy of critical systems. So these are all very important, vital things to bear in mind for space flight, for going down deep in the ocean. These things can be done, but they need to be done correctly. Uh, so enough said. I wish them well because I feel some kinship to this thing. I feel kind of like a parent to this thing in a sense, or maybe like a grandparent to it more appropriately, because I have been quite involved in it many years ago, not in the last, over a decade, almost 2 decades ago. But I do wish him well. I really want to see space tourism take off. When I was chairman of the executive committee of the National Space Society and chairman of the policy committee, in the 10 years I served as executive vice president and chairman of the policy committee, I promoted things that would promote commercial space and things like space tourism. And it did include we pushed it so that the side that governed these rocket ventures was the AST side of the FAA instead of the side that does commercial aviation, because you just can't fly rockets for millions of hours like you can an airplane to get the same kind of testing on it. But at the same time, you just got to realize you're taking more risk, and it's got to be understood. With our Liberator, even though Burt Rutan beat us to the X Prize, I had a business plan. I was pursuing the idea that we would launch the Liberator and still make money on it. But when I realized, rocket reliability is typically 98%, I was going to have to fly 200 missions to to get the commercial break even, on the cost of it. That I realized I was going to lose a few crews, most likely, very likely, and I couldn't stomach that. And the team got really kind of aggravated at me when I pulled us out of that kind of venture. I said, I can't promote this business plan. But there's also the financial side of it. We were really concerned that even though you could have people sign all kind of waivers, that the families would still come back and sue you in this legit, I can't even talk today. They would sue us in our society. The way our society is so lawsuit happy, they would find a way to get through it. I can't even speak. So, guys, bear these things in mind. It's risky. I did see recently where somebody has ruled that the families of the Titan submersible probably can't sue. So maybe the commercial ventures, the tourism ventures, won't be as susceptible as I thought. Litigious is what I was trying to say. Oh Lord, it's late. Hey, I'm 63-year-old. The litigious nature of our society makes these kind of things problematic. One thing about Nepal is Nepal don't allow that kind of litigious action for people that climb Mount Everest, and Mount Everest is littered with those that didn't make it, unfortunately. But you got a right to climb Mount Everest if you've got the ability and you think you want to do it. I am a big supporter of freedom to choose. And so if you want to take the risk, by all means, it'll be quite an adventure. But you need to ask questions. Just like I said, you're not getting in a car and running down the street. It's risky. It's very risky. And even if you get a few flights, it don't mean that one just down the road won't go boom. Look how many times it did. We took us 25 missions to lose a space shuttle. It took us, but to find to have the intersection of events that would cause a mishap. And that could happen with a lot of these things. So in special composites, when I said that the wing should be a limited life item, is that every time you fly, you're putting more stress on them. The stress is what makes cracks. And that's wherein lies a lot of danger and risk. So just bear that in mind. Typically on systems, there's what we call a bathtub curve in reliability. When a system is brand new, because some things may not be worked out, may have defects you haven't found, there's a higher failure rate. Usually when it goes to maturity, the failure rate goes down. As it gets a little older, the failure rate goes back up. The sweet spot's in the middle, but we don't know how big that sweet spot is with some of these structures, because this is new, it's experimental, and it's already taken lives. So I was at one of the space conferences right after the X Prizes won, and all my friends there, space activists, were cheering, going, yeah, we're going to have space tourism in a year we'll be flying space tourist stuff. I said, no, you won't. I said, it's going to take a lot more than that. This space flight's difficult. Oh, they got mad at me. I mean, they like they wanted to pluck my eyeballs out. They were furious at me for saying, no, it ain't going to happen right now. Now, look, it's almost 20 years later. So take it to the bank. I bring real truth here. I got experience, and I'm just sharing it with you so that you'll understand that if you want to take this risk, if you've got loved ones that are taking this risk, just understand what it is. You're free to do that. If you want to do it, go for it. But just understand you're taking risk and you're paying a lot of money to do it. But, you know, it could be the adventure of a lifetime. But I wish these guys well. It's, to me, it's going to be drama. I got my fingers crossed. It is late hour now. It will probably be the 29th by the time I post this. Maybe I'll just wait and post it in the wee hours in the morning instead of posting it right off the bat here, because it's getting late. Video posted this late don't do so well. So I'll post it before the flight. My friends, I wish these guys well. Seriously. Anybody that wants to do this kind of thing, I wish them well. I wish SpaceX well with their coming up development of the Starship. But there's a lot of risk in that too. I've talked about those risks in this channel. But we do need systems like that. And I do believe commercial enterprise is the real way to make space flight affordable and attainable for everybody. And I seriously believe that if we don't develop space, we're going to be locked on this in this basket, third rock from the Earth, this little egg, one basket of eggs here. And it doesn't bode well for our long-term survivability. We need to go out and develop space. The resources are out there. There's a lot of stuff, and it's more than the government can develop on their own. So there needs to be private enterprise going into space, and this is one of the ways to get it started. So this is important. It is crucial. So that's one of the reasons from the bottom of my heart, because I feel kinship into this project. I want to succeed deeply, but I am concerned, and you should ask questions. Always ask questions. With that, I've said enough. Thank you for watching, and Greg out.